Welcome back to our commodity series. Today we're going to be featuring heating oil. Heating oil will be the last in our series on energy. And with that sector or asset class will then be closed and we'll move on to the next one. Heating oil is a lot like gasoline in terms of its trading personality. It's very wide. It's very sweepy. Usually you're looking at anywhere spread-wise of about 7 to 15 ticks. So on stops, you should expect that you may get filled anywhere from 15 to 20 ticks away from where the market is. So that's something to just keep in mind. It's, again, like I said, it's very wide and it's very sweepy. When you think about heating oil, the other thing that should come to mind is the word distillates. Now, what does that mean? The things that come out of heating oil or that are produced from the heating oil contract, so to speak, you should be thinking diesel, you should be thinking jet fuel, and obviously heating oil, among other things. You can do your own research to see what actually is made from the distillate portion, but primarily it's obviously heating oil and jet fuel as well as diesel. It's the thicker part of the barrel, the bottom of the barrel. A lot of the settlement happens there within the crude barrel, and the heating oil portion is really the bottom of the barrel or the bottom third of the barrel. In general, it's very seasonal, just like gasoline. You can pretty much set your watch to it. So obviously in the summer, spring months, you're going to be more focused on gasoline. And then the fall, winter months, you're going to be more focused on heating oil just because of the seasonality aspect of it. However, because it does have that diesel and jet fuel component in it, it's not like it dies when spring, summer comes. It doesn't just fall out of bed and just die. It does still move around. However, it's very thin, just like gasoline, has characteristics of gasoline where it can be very volatile. It can jump all over the place. Just like gasoline, it trades in thousandths of a penny. Another thing that it shares with gasoline is every $1 move in it is equal to $42,000. So each contract is equal to $42,000 or 42,000 gallons. So it is a bigger contract from a risk perspective. Now, the reality is that we talked about this when we were discussing gasoline. Crude is the papa, meaning crude is usually in energy is number one. It goes crude and then products. So products being gasoline and heating oil. So can you key off of what happens in crude to products? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Sometimes you'll get a situation where crude is very bearish and products can go wherever they want. Products can trade in their own world. So heating oil can trade in its own world. Another thing to consider with it when you're actually even looking at it is that because of its wide and sweeping nature, you can get hurt in this very quickly. Even gasoline, which, is also the same type of characteristic in terms of movement, they both can hurt you the same way. So you have to really be willing to take on this kind of risk before you're even looking at it. Because again, due to its just volatile nature that it has with it, and it's very thin, it could move really fast just because the books are really thin. So you have to be really careful with it. With that being said, let's go over some of the more technical aspects of it, and we'll go from there. Okay, so just going to a daily chart. Obviously, you can see we had the situation last week when the attack happened. So this was that spike. All the energy products did this. And now it's basically found a hole. Let's go to weekly because I think a weekly will give the picture a little bit better. You can clearly see the downtrend. Again, I discuss this every week in the Commodity Corner videos. The demand issue is a constant ceiling in these things, crude and gasoline and heating oil. So I'm not going to regurgitate that over here, but I just want you to see that there is downtrend. That's for sure. You can see you got your high, lower high, lower high, lower high. You peaked out of this. I wouldn't say that these 2 weeks were bullish. It was more bearish. I know you could say one is engulfing. I get it. But the reality is this is really more war related. So in my opinion, the trend still stays intact with the lower high. and the downtrend is still there. You will notice on the weekly that we are reverting somewhat to the mean of around $2 and let's just say $2.30 roughly, which we were basically living. There is a lot of talk out there where diesel demand is definitely falling out of, I wouldn't say it's falling out of bed, but it's not as strong as people would like, which obviously sometimes can be played into recession. You can have situations where crude will go one way, gasoline will go another way, and heating oil will go another way. So even though you can get situations where they'll follow crude, there are times where they'll do their own thing. So heating oil was a clue last week on some of the market losing some steam in crude on 1 or 2 days. And that wasn't a huge move, but you could definitely see it where heating oil was leading lower. Another thing to keep in mind is on inventory days. Every Wednesday, we have inventory days at 10:30 EIA. You have to pay attention to these inventory numbers. You can't just focus on oil. You have to focus on the products as well. If the product numbers are no good and they're very bearish, even if crude is going up, it will drag crude down. So you really have to pay attention to it. Now, I said this in gasoline, and I'm going to end off with this. This is an introduction for beginners to get you somewhat of a familiarity with this contract. However, it is $42,000. It is wide. It is sweepy. It is dangerous. This is not a beginner contract. I would not, under any circumstances, tell someone to start exploring this if you're new to futures. This is very much a contract for experienced traders. This is not for the faint of heart. You could really get hurt here. So you have to be really careful. However, it is part of energy. So I did want to do somewhat of a brief discussion on it, just so you could get introduced to it. Because a lot of people just think energy, they think crude and natural gas. Sometimes you'll think gasoline, but you're not really thinking about heating oil. And if you're thinking about heating oil, you're just thinking winter. You're not thinking about the diesel and the jet fuel component of it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.